Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I am Todd Kuiper Berman Jr. We're back for another great year of fantasy football. The 2017 fantasy football season is upon us, and let me tell you, I could not be more excited. And what I'm excited about is to review to you the SBE Fall 09/Spring 10 Fantasy Football League. Now, looking back in this league last year, competitive league, had a lot of teams right in it, right down to the wire. You had Dynasty, Jagganoff in the 8-man, Welcome Malcolm Floyd, BT Champs, all in there for a playoff spot. Major Keyshawn Alert took that 6th spot. Actually was the highest scoring team last year, so to get that 6 spots, probably got to be an enviable position for, not enviable, but unenviable, if that is a word. I'm also stumbling on my words this morning. It is early. I had a long night. Give me a break. But anyways, looking back on last year's standing, this is a 14-team league. We actually lost an owner this year, Trey Nelson. Moment of silence. And let's take that moment and make it a loud moment. Let's give a round of applause for Matt LeCamp, welcoming him to the league. Going to be a crafty owner, smart guy, law school guy, knows the legalities of the league's contracts, things like that. You know it's probably going to work in his favor later on this year. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go work up the standings real quick. We'll hit the teams, kind of review, recap each team of last year, and then we'll go right to the draft because, of course, that's what you're here for. You're here for the draft order, and that's what we're going to do for you. So first off, we're going to go to Macklin on Your Girl, the 14th place team from last year. That's right, that's Justin Bollinger's team. Now, initially looking at this team, real disappointing. The only team in the league to not crack the 1,000-point mark for the season, which is a bit incredible considering you play 13 regular season games. He couldn't even average over 100 points a game, or let alone 90 points a game. If I'm doing the math correctly at the top of my head, that's a 154 winning percentage. Taking a look at his roster, really kind of deplorable. He only had 9 moves, 2 trades. Not a very active league compared to some leagues throughout the fantasy world, but again, a league that is competitive. So looking at this roster, it doesn't have a single top 10 player in the starting lineup. Only had 1 top 10 player in his entire team, and that was a defense. I mean, what more can you say about this team except unsuccessful? Unsuccessful, no wins, 2 wins, actually. Look at the schedule here. Let's make fun of the people that he did beat last year. I'm assuming one of them was probably me. He actually started off 2-0 and then just went downhill from there. Take that back. He beat Black by Acacia. He beat Gronky Kong, 2 teams we're going to talk about here a little bit later on in the standings. But again, just not a good year for Bollinger. Usually a competitive owner, so it was surprising to see him at the bottom of the standings last year. But, you know, it is what it is. Fantasy football, it fluctuates from year to year. Fluctuates more than a grandpa's pants in a whorehouse, you know, for an analogy for you. But anyways, moving on to the next team. Dropping his like it's Merlin. Now, a more active owner, but a guy that we perennially find at the bottom of the standings. I hate to do this because he is the commissioner of the league, but his teams have not been successful over the past 2 to 3 years. Again, looking at the starting lineup, though, a lot of depth. 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10 players in his, in his starting lineup. I'm sorry if I pause here every once in a while. I'm not taking any drinks of water. I'm not breathing. I'm trying to make this as fast and rapid for you guys as possible. Much like my girlfriend definitely prepares, likes it fast, rapid, just get it over with. But anyways, look at this roster. Had a good quarterback in Kirk Cousins. This was a keeper league. That would be an outstanding keep. I believe he got him in the later rounds. Looking at the receivers, Dante Adams, Kyle Rudolph, both successful players. Matt Bryant, a phenomenal fantasy kicker. Looking back at his schedule, though, just trying to see where it went wrong. Yep, that's where it went wrong. Looking at his schedule, started the season 1-8. Really hard to bounce back from a start like that. Just bad luck, too. Looking at it here, looks like he scored a decent amount of points. Yeah, decent amount of points. But was definitely up there against for points scored against. So I think that's where Coach has had some issues over the past couple years. Is just getting some bad luck, some bad draws. Hoping to turn that around this year. Maybe he won't. Again, we find him perennially at the bottom of the standings, so this could be a sign of more things to come. His team was drop it like it's Merlin, although he didn't do much dropping except in the loss column. Rolling with the Funches, an unknown player to use for your name, but I like it. Devin Funches played a very small role for the Carolina Panthers last year, but Eaglehoff, that's right, Kyle Eaglehoff, the 12th place team, thought it was appropriate enough to put that name as a part of his team name. So you're looking at the top 10 here. He's got some great players, actually. This is a phenomenal roster. Looking at it, Derek Carr, Frank Gore, Jay Ajayi, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, Martellus Bennett, Vikings defense, Dustin Hopkins. The only real downside of the thing is Thomas Rawls, who was lower ranked than he probably should have been just because of the injuries. Again, this is a guy that cannot stay healthy. But looking at his schedule here from the past year, interesting year for him. Real up and down. Started off hot. Started off 2-1, but then it was just fluctuating back and forth until about week 10 here. Took a devastating loss to the eventual champions of the league, hooked on a Thielen. Big loss, and after that it was just downhill. He was 4-6 at that point. Finished the season 6-10. Did not have a good run in the playoffs. Something he's looking to improve upon. This is a guy that's usually in the middle of the standings, but he's a scary team. You never know exactly what he's going to do in the playoffs, and that's why I think you got to watch out for Kyle Eaglehoff a little bit later on this year. Moving on, I am Malcolm Floyd. I think a shout out probably to the anchorman, Ron Burgundy, who put the question mark at the end of the teleprompter, But look at this team, again, not a very active league, only 7 acquisitions, 2 trades. Great picture of Malcolm Floyd, though, for his team logo. He's got some depth this year. I think this team actually could be better this year than it was last year. I don't know if Reed would agree with me on that. He probably wants to get rid of this team after 11th place finish last year. But hey, I'm just the commentator here. I'm just looking at the stats. Look at this team, though. Doug Baldwin, Antonio Cates, LeGarrette Blount, Adam Vinatieri. His best player was Adam Vinatieri. So whenever your best player is your kicker, that's usually not a great sign of things to come. Again, this is another team that started off tough. Started off 1-3. That's hard to bounce back in this league, especially when the 500 records are what gets you there. Started off 1-3, tried to fight back, never could quite. He actually fought back to a 7-4 record by week 11, but after that it was just loss. That's right. Low scoring outputs. You got to think injuries were probably a factor in there. The emergence of Hunter Henry and the tight end rotation for the San Diego Chargers, now the Los Angeles Chargers. We now have 2 football teams out here in Los Angeles when nobody really cares about football. So anyways, Malcolm Floyd, a team that scored, in the upper echelon of points. He had a great home record at 4-1. I'm excited to see what Reed does this year. He actually had a good team a couple years ago, was in the run for the championship. Last year was a down year for him, but he's looking to bounce back. Moving on to our next team, jagging off in the 8-man. Anyways, funny name. 23 acquisitions, 2 trades. Probably one of the more active owners in the league. He actually was one of the highest scoring teams in the league, if not the highest scoring. Let me double check my facts here for you. Yep, that's in fact. He was the highest scoring team in the league last year. So for him to end up in 10th place, he had some bad breaks. He had some bad breaks. You look at this roster, though. Matthew Stafford, Ezekiel Elliott, Delaney Walker, Chiefs defense, solid. His kicker wasn't his best player, which I focused on was for Reed. That was, the trouble of his team. He had Ezekiel Elliott, which he was happy about the draft pick. Again, if this was a keeper league, that would probably be his keeper. Let's look at the schedule, though, to see where it really started off for him. I think the schedule here is all important because, as we all know, fantasy football is about matchups. It's all about that compatibility, finding a matchup that works for you. He's around that 500 mark all year. He just couldn't get 2 good matchups in a row. That's just really what it comes down to. I wish I had more to say about it, but I don't. That's the 9th place team, Chris Tolman. Had a good year. You're looking at this roster, too. Des Bryant he's made of glass. The guy's absolutely made of glass. He took a chance, and the chance did not pay off. Anyways, moving on to the next team. This is fucking bad. Moving on to the next team, Gronky Kong. 23 acquisitions, 3 trades. Surprising for Kyle DeGroot, who necessarily isn't the sharpest football mind in the world from what we've been told. That's my insider information. I don't know. But anyways, moving on, Kyle DeGroot. Look at this roster. Jameis Winston, a promising fantasy quarterback, probably a year or 2 early to draft Jameis Winston. But he had Devontae Freeman, Darren Sproles. What are you doing starting him? Pierre Garçon, what are you doing starting him? Tyler Boyd, what are you doing starting him? Cameron Bright was actually a good start. J.J. Nelson, what are you doing starting him? Yes, he's a speedster, but he outruns himself. He loses his shoes. He can't catch the ball, and that's a problem. If you can't catch the ball and you're wide receiver in the NFL, you certainly should be starting in the NFL, and you certainly be starting in the fantasy leagues. That's for damn sure. Look at this bench, though. He had decent quarterback depth. Dak Prescott on the bench. Just not a lot of depth in this roster. That's something, it's just it's hard to turn away from. It's almost gross. He did have a nice little run there. He went into the playoffs 5-8, ended the season 7-9. So this goes to show you had a good playoff run. This is a guy that's got a lot of momentum going into the next year, and you're excited to see that. Excited to see the momentum. You're excited to see what he comes back with. Now, Dynasty. I unfortunately ripped on this team last year, not realizing that the name was from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I apologize to the owner of this league, this team, and that team is Mike Boyd, the 7th place team. Looking at this roster, 5 top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 top 10 players of the positions. To me, that usually indicates success. To Mike Boyd, that indicated a 7th place finish last year. Let's go over those top 10 players. Andrew Luck, LaShawn McCoy, T.Y. Hilton, Greg Olson, Michael Thomas, who I think is going to have a breakout fantasy year this year with Drew Brees coming back at the helm, looking to break that Peyton Manning, I believe it's touchdown passes and yardage records, and also Dan Bailey, a nice, real solid kicker. The problem with this team is depth. You look at the bench here, and it just struggles. Todd Gurley, disappointment. DeAndre Hopkins, disappointment. TJ Yeldon, disappointment. Ladarius Green, disappointment. Just overall, looking at this roster here, disappointment after disappointment on the bench, and that's where Mike Boyd got hurt last year. That's where he was devastated. Moving on to the next team, actually one of the highest scoring teams in the league. It is the highest scoring team in the league with 34 acquisitions and 2 trades. That's right, I'm talking about Major Keyshawn alert. I'm talking about Jeff Up. This is an owner who couldn't get past one team last year. That team was, of course, our eventual champion, hooked on a Thielen. He just struggled. He lost the last game of the regular season. He also lost the first game of the playoffs to that team. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, sometimes you just can't beat the champ. Anyways, looking at this roster here, you got Le'Veon Bell, Mark Ingram, real solid running back rotation. Jordan Reed, a consistent, but although not consistent tight end. Very injured, oft injured. Looks like he's going to take on a major role here in Washington this year, though, so exciting to see what happens. Larry Fitzgerald's going to get you that big week, also going to get you that week where he only gets about 3.5 points. You know that probably came back to hurt Up once or twice throughout the season. Looking at the bench, though, Blake Bortles, again, surprising, that he's the 8th-ranked quarterback. You got the Chargers defense, so good defensive depth on this team. But this is a guy that's always at the top of the stand. He's a scary owner. You never want to see him on your schedule. And when he is on your schedule, you're usually expecting him to take a loss. Unless, of course, you are hooked on a Thielen, which just had his number last year. But now we're moving on to Fetch Ed Semyeger. I hope he has, because that guy has a problem. Oh, man, that picture's funny. Anyways, 31 acquisitions, 1 trade. The 5th place team ended with this regular season record of 8-5. Look at this team, though. Could have been better. Surprising that it ended with such a good record. Russell Wilson, the running back depth, is something he's going to address this year. Being an NFC North guy, he's probably going to go Latavius Murray. Wouldn't be surprised to see this guy draft maybe a Dalvin Cook late in the round. Maybe he gets, Ty Montgomery out of the Packers backfield. Interested to see what he does. But anyways, his wide receiver depth was fantastic. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, awesome. Justin Tucker, the most consistent kicker of the game. He's probably going to be on the roster this year again. Again, let's look at this guy's schedule. Let's see where it all went awry for him. He lost in the first round of the playoffs to Blackballed by Acacia. Shout out to Acacia. Or being blackballed by Acacia. Shout out to that. But he came back nice. Won the last 2 games of the year. Actually beat Jeff Up again twice. So another team Jeff Up could just not get over the hump with. Tough break. Sorry, Jeff. Just a team that had a little bit of a losing streak, a 2-game losing streak, Week 13, Round 1 of the playoffs, not solid. Started the season 4-2, actually 3-1, real nice, solid start to the season. Just couldn't capitalize in the playoffs. He actually was a champion in another league, though, so maybe he was a little exhausted, maybe he was a little tired, just didn't quite have the stamina, the gusto to make him over the top. Anyways, moving on to the next team, Blackballed by Acacia. 14 moves, 0 trades. No trust. This is a guy who lacks very little trust throughout his teammates, or not teammates, but his fellow league owners. He always thinks he's going to get screwed over, and oftentimes he does. But anyways, he actually did a fun little matchup with Mike Marone in the playoffs the last game, and they were a kicker-on-kicker matchup. He lost with Steven Hauschka, who's now a member of the Buffalo Bills, for those who didn't know. Steven Hauschka, Buffalo Bill. But you look at this roster, you had David Johnson, Jimmy Graham, Cardinals D. Those were his best players. Of course, Tom Brady, who would have been ranked higher if he wasn't suspended for the Deflategate, 4 games in the first part of the year. But still, this is a guy who was perennially at the bottom of the standings throughout the past couple seasons. This year ends up 4th. You're looking for him to carry that positive momentum into this next year. So you're looking from a 4th place in this. He went from 14th to 10th to 4th. Looking for probably another big jump again this year. Sorry, Doobie Brothers. Anyways, a good team. Especially considering he started off the season 0-2, it's great to see him bounce back the way he did. Anyways, that's right. That's Blackballed by Acacia. That's the 4th place team. Newton on her belly. Maybe you should have Newton on her belly a few more times. But this is a guy who's a proud father now. 48 acquisitions, 0 trades. Real solid team. And in the season 11-4, one of the best records in the league. But again, the 3rd place team. Again, I mentioned he was part of that kicker matchup last year. He won with Gostowski. If there's one thing you can bet on in the Fantasy Football League, that's that Mike Rowan will have Steven Gostowski on his team every year. That's just a fact. It's just a fact. Again, a loyal father, dedicated father, very happy for him. He parents his teams. He coaches them into winning. He's got Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Cam Newton, who had an off year, but Kelvin Benjamin, who had some good games late in the season. Melvin Gordon, one of the real surprises of fantasy last year, was on this roster. Eric Ebron, depth at the quarterback position with Andy Dalton. You're looking at another guys. Again, this is a roster that I just look at and it's got some depth. Surprising. If this was a keeper league, I bet this guy would keep almost his exact roster. That's how good of a team it is. We're actually just going to move on from the second place team. Again, it was Trey Nelson. He is no longer with the league. But now we're moving on to the championship. That's right. We're moving on to Hooked on a Thielen, a proud owner, Brett Kohler. I have to say it was his first championship he's ever won in fantasy. He had 20 acquisitions this year. Absolutely phenomenal team. I just see that I got a text from, I believe, Jeff Up. And yes, Jeff Up, the video is about to be posted. I am working on it as we speak, I swear. But you look at Brett Kohler's roster, surprising that this was a fantasy championship roster. Maybe he got a little lucky. He had Ben Roethlisberger, Carlos Hyde, who was up and down throughout the year. Spencer Ware was consistent, 8 to 10 points. Jordy Nelson had some big games. Jordy Nelson got him 30 points in a couple of those games in the playoffs. Those were the games that won him the championship. Demaryius Thomas, again, had some very big games. Zach Ertz was a surprisingly productive fantasy tight end. Tyreek Hill, late season emergence, was usually putting up about 20 points a game late in the season. Seahawks D, always going to be on Kohler's team. Will Lutz, New Orleans kicker, can always expect him to have a good year. But looking at this bench, too, he had some solid bench depth. Lamar Miller, Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan, Falcons D. Colin Kaepernick was a surprisingly productive fantasy quarterback when he played in. Unfortunately, can't find a job this year. Alfred Blue, just in case Lamar Miller got hurt. This guy was covering his butt. I wish I wouldn't have said that. But anyways, this is a guy that won a championship. This is the guy who's a champion. He's a hell of an owner. Woohoo! I did it. Congratulations. Anyways, let's get to the fun part, right? Let's move on to the Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. That's right, the 2007 Fantasy Football SBE Fall 09 Spring 10 Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. And here we go. Got the bingo ball machine right here, ready to go. Let me just get everything pulled up here. Excited to see what happens this year. It's going to be an exciting league. I'm really happy. Anyways, and with the first pick of the 2017 Fantasy Football Draft, we'll go to... The ball has been selected. Oh, look at this. Talk about a dynasty. That's right, Dynasty. Mike Boyd, congratulations. First pick of the 2017 Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. Very happy for you, buddy. Very happy for you. The second pick of the draft is going to go to... This is a guy who probably needs a second pick of the draft. Not a real talent evaluator, but a guy that gets the best out of the players in his top rounds. That's right. I'm talking about Gronky Kong. I'm talking about Kyle DeGroot. Congratulations, Kyle DeGroot. Second pick of the draft. Second pick of the draft. Third pick of the draft is going to go to... Third pick of the draft has been selected. This is a guy that's just been slowly moving up the standings. That's right. That's right. It is Tyler Canning. Blackballed by Acacia, going to snag that third pick of the 2017 NFL Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. Congratulations, Tyler Canning. Look for him to have a big year this year, maybe a championship this year. Fourth pick of the draft is going to go to... Fourth pick has been picked. The new guy, which is usually actually where I believe the NBA puts their best in their new expansion teams, in the fourth slot. And that's right, Matt Legman. Fourth pick of the... Not Matt Legman, Matt LeCamp. Fourth pick of the draft. Congratulations, Matt LeCamp, and welcome to the league, buddy. Welcome to the league. Fifth pick of the draft is going to go to... this is last year's champion. That's right, Brett Kohler. Fifth pick in the draft. Congratulations, Brett Kohler. You're a champion. Sixth pick of the draft is going to go to... I got two balls here. I got number 6 and number 7 lined up in the docket here, so bear with me, folks. 6 and 7 came out at the same time. 6 and 7 came out at the same time. The sixth pick is going to go to a good man. Eric Deutsch. I don't believe I touched on his team. I think I might have accidentally skipped over his team in the draft preview. Could have had a better team last year. Sorry, Deutsch. I did not do that on purpose. There's just 14 teams, and I just lost track. But congratulations. I hope I made it up to you with the 6th pick. Eric Deutsch, 6th pick of the 2017 Fantasy Football Draft Lottery. Again, just remember, folks, this is all improvised. This is all on the spot. I haven't breathed much. I haven't taken a drink of water. I'm going as fast as I possibly can because I know this is a league that wants results. Again, the 7th pick was already in the docket. 7th pick was in the docket, and it's going to go to a guy who had a real bad season last year. That's right. I'm talking about Macklin on your girl. No girls will be feeling that, Mac, if they saw your fantasy football team. But congratulations, Justin Bollinger. You get the 7th pick, a chance to rebound, a chance to recover. The 8th pick of the draft. The 8th pick of the draft is going to go to Chris Tolman. Congratulations, Chris Tolman, 8th pick in the draft. Congratulations. It's a good spot. You know, you're going to get yourself a real solid player. You're going to get yourself 2 probably top 20 players, statistically. Congratulations, Chris Tolman. Next pick in the draft is going to go to Kyle Egoff, the San Diegonites. San Diegans. I don't know. Anyways, Kyle Egoff has got the 9th pick of the draft. Losing track, there's a lot of teams in this league. Anyways, Kyle Egoff, 9th pick of the draft. Congratulations, buddy. 2017. 10, 11, 12. Yep, this is the 10th pick. This is what we're going with, the 10th pick. The 10th pick of the draft is going to go to... That's right, I got the 10th pick coming up here. It's going to go to the father. That's right, the Godfather, some would call him. Throwing him off. Mike Rowan, congratulations, buddy. Hope all is well. 10th pick of the draft, double digits. Again, you're in line to get yourself 2 top 20 players, which is a dangerous proposition for the rest of the league, because what this guy can do with 2 top 20 players, let alone 1, it's terrifying. Congratulations, Mike Rowan, 10th pick. Gives me the chills. Ghosts. 11th pick in the draft is going to go to the guy who just texted me. The ball's on the floor. The ball's on the floor. I got it. My assistant almost came and got it for me. Just all over her feet. Shout out Lauren Kohler. It's going to go to the guy who's texting me to ask me where the hell the video was. That's right, Jeff Up. Congratulations, Jeff Up. 11th pick of the draft. The 12th pick of the draft is going to go to... This guy was a champion in one league, but he was not a champion in this league. He's fetching eggs some Jaeger. That's right. This is Jordan Mallon. Congratulations, Jordan Mallon. 12th pick, the 2017 Fantasy Football Draft. It's going to give you 2 picks back-to-back. Going to give you a lot of opportunity to get those great players. Boom, boom. You're going to get probably the 12th ranked player, you would think, and probably the 17th ranked player. Can't ask for much more than that. A lot of depth on your team. This is a team that's going to need to capitalize on depth now with the 12th pick. 13th pick of the draft is also on the floor. Let's read it. My assistant is reading. It's the guy who's the commissioner of the league. That's right. That's Nick McCullough. Nick McCullough. Congratulations, Nick McCullough. 13th pick of the draft. Again, back-to-back picks. Scary to see what you do with the position. Again, remember, also people are listening to trades. These are tradable picks. It'll be exciting to see what everybody does with the picks. Usually there's a little pre-draft movement. And I think that just adds some intrigue to the league. Anyways, that of course means our last pick is going to go to... good buddy of mine. Someone also call him the Don. Someone call him the Godfather. That's Reed Merlotti. Reed Merlotti, 14th pick of the draft, means you're probably going to get the 14th, 15th best player. Again, this is another guy with, you give him too much depth, and we're in trouble. The league's in trouble. So anyways, I'd like to say thank you all for tuning in. I hope I made it short enough. I hope you all have enjoyed the draft experience. Again, my name is Todd Kuiper Berman Jr. Take it easy, guys.